Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry, and it's a pleasure to be here with you once again for another weekly episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. As always, it's my pleasure to be here with you. I'm thankful for another week. I hope you had a good one. I continue to rehab my left knee. It is doing decently well, I can say. I think it's a bit further along than the right knee at this time after surgery, so I'm very happy about that. I am very thankful that the doctors have been great with the pain meds because, understanding the graphic details of what they do when they totally replace your knee, pain management is a key component to getting past this. So I'm thankful for that. I pray that you all had a great week. I continue to keep an eye on the social and mental and emotional impact of what's going on in our society today. And we have been in the midst of a government shutdown that's beginning to impact people personally. So sit back, relax, and when I return, we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Took me a little longer to work to control that moment. But again, welcome to everyone. I'm always appreciative to have my audience. I know a few people reached out to me and say, hey, we don't see the weekly promotion for the podcast anymore. Well, I figure after 5 years of being in existence, I always welcome new subscribers, which I have seen. Hold on, let me stop. I've seen a surge in new YouTube subscribers. Welcome to each and every one of you. It is my absolute pleasure to have you as people who are interested in what I have to say and a part of this podcast that seeks to uplift and support and encourage and remind us of who we are and whose we are and how we can be of a benefit to each other so we together we can rise and withstand all of the challenges that life throws at us. So welcome to you all. I am humbled and I appreciate the recent increase in surge in subscribers. Thank you so much for being on the channel. This week I'm going to talk a little bit, it's not based on this, but I got this from my pastor, again, Pastor O'Connor, this morning. In order to become stronger, you'll have to be willing to push yourself beyond your limits. In order to become stronger, you have to be willing to push yourself beyond limits. Now, I think the first challenge that I find in something like that is, what are our limits? Okay, excuse me if I'm looking sideways. I always have cameras next to me so I see what's going on. I have tried to define what my limits are. I have found out about myself that some of my limits inhibit my ability to grow. Some of my limits inflict unnecessary unhappiness on myself. And some of my limits are there simply because of my fear of taking a risk to move beyond. This is very relevant because it's become a real challenge to many people in today's time, in this moment in time, where because of the government shutdown, there are a lot of families out there that depend on supplemental benefits from the government that, as I've read online, will cease as of November 1st. These benefits include things like food assistance, right? The EBT cards that people use to buy real groceries, not crap. They have to buy meat or vegetables, stuff that they actually eat. And I guess to some degree, cash assistance, right? And if you're someone who has had a life story, and there's so many scenarios, and let me digress there for a moment when I say scenarios. When we first hear about people who are receiving public assistance, many people have this preconception of who they are and how they live their lives. Those who have never had to receive assistance never understand those who have. I have been fortunate enough to work very closely with people who have received assistance. And if you've ever heard some of the stories that come out of despair, death, destruction, things that have happened to them in their lives, that sickness, that have forced them into the position that they must accept and receive help from someone. Many of these people, I'm not talking about the whole population, but I can tell you, many of these people did not willingly or do not willingly go for this help. There are many people I meet who do not want to be in that category, but they have no choice. And I'm going to run through categories for you really quickly so you understand the gist of what I'm saying. We talked last week about people who have families tend to, if they go into government service, many times husband and wife end up, children end up in the same service, following in their footsteps, following their career paths. And we had a situation over the last year or so where some people, for instance, in government lost their jobs because of budget cuts. And then now we have maybe a family with just one breadwinner at the moment, and that breadwinner is now not being paid because of the government shutdown. I've spoken to people who've had one breadwinner, sometimes both breadwinners, or the only breadwinner die from COVID within a split second, right? What would it seem like at that time? Going from normal life to dead in a week. We've had people who both parents died from COVID, and the eldest child, who was 18 or 19, who was going to school and working a part-time job at a fast food restaurant, became the one who now has to support the siblings. We have people who have had fires in their home and lost everything. We have people who've been scammed by scammers and lost everything. You have people who've been physically robbed of everything. You have people who've been taken advantage of everything. You have people who had everything and sickness and then health insurance that doesn't cover the cost of trying to keep themselves or their child or their loved one alive, have lost everything. There are people out there who are receiving public assistance whose stories will make you cry every single time you hear them. Because they're not lazy people who, and unfortunately, when you say public assistance, the first thought that comes to the majority of people I have met, at least, first thought that comes to their mind is someone who's lazy and does not want to work. When you say someone's on public assistance, people turn their noses and their faces make a certain, get contorted in a certain way that suggests that these people are lesser than, they're lazy, they're not entrepreneurs, they're not go-getters, they don't try enough. Yet many of those people are working 2 or 3 jobs. If you think a moment about the kid who was in college, who was on a trajectory to amazing career, who immediately lost both parents to COVID and had to do a quick turnaround and had to take 2, 3 jobs and had to drop out of college, what happened? If you think about those who were along a path of they were saving money to buy a home, they were doing great, they're paying their rent, and then they got a diagnosis of this rare disease or rare cancer or whatever the case may be, and the insurance company says, well, we don't pay for that medication, or your co-pay is $700-800 a month. I recently had a situation where one of my wife's migraine medications, she got it resolved, but there was a point where they were telling us that we would have to pay for her medication at $700 a month as a copay. This is along with everything else. 2 kids that needed braces, and I don't know if you ever notice it, but the things that we need most to live are the things that the insurance company covers the least. Basic services, that are cheaper, that the doctors will charge cheaper, that they can reimburse at a cheaper rate, they cover 100%, always a $10 or $5 no copay. But the things that will actually make a difference in your life, rare forms of cancer, all these illnesses and things that require an insurance company to step up and say some of these things are trials. They're trial medications or they're complete trials. But they represent to that sick person the only chance to live, to see their kid graduate, to hug their family members one more time, to reach a milestone that means something that they can mark in their lives before they die. And the insurance company will say, we don't cover that. Or the copay is an enormous amount that only a wealthy person can afford. Just yesterday I heard several companies, one company I heard is going to lay off 14,000 people because they say they're re-engineering their practice. No, they're bringing in AI, they're doing these different things, and they're replacing the need for human beings. Isn't it ironic that we live in a world where human beings will take advantage of an artificial intelligence to reduce their need for human beings? What new industries do you know that can compensate for the amount of people losing their jobs now to automation and AI? And I'm a tech guy. But the problem here is, what will happen eventually is everybody is right now seeing AI as the solution. And there can be a bunch of people who have the ability to get in on AI early and make a ton of money. And then, like many other things in our lives, AI field will become saturated. It may take a little while, but it will. Not everybody can go down that path. Not everybody who's struggling to survive with kids and bills and underwater already and drowning in debt and drowning to survive. Not everyone has the ability to pivot to learn AI. Some people don't have the capacity to understand it. Simple. We're all different human beings. Some people find it so intimidating that learning it immediately gives them anxiety. And then there's still other things in life that we need. I mean, restaurants can replace waiters with robots, but can they have a robot cook the food too? Maybe sometimes, I don't know, but right now, no. But the point is, why are we in such a hurry to get to a place where human beings no longer need human beings? And the worst part about it is, the early adopters of AI, if you look online, they are not there using AI to benefit others, for others to grow. People are using it as a destructive tool to spread lies across the internet about people, to destroy their characters. I was going to say this before the end of the episode, but I use it as an example now because I want to give a special, heartfelt best wishes to people in Jamaica who have just experienced Hurricane Melissa, and I've seen the destruction in certain parts of the land. I'm thankful to God that they didn't have a larger loss of life. But what was crazy was I have family in Jamaica. And I have family in Jamaica. And so I was reaching out to my family who were not in Jamaica, who were interested in seeing what was going on. So I would send them videos from Facebook of the destruction in Jamaica. And then they got back to me and says, this is all AI. I'm like, AI? I said, this thing is heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. Why would somebody do this? He said, well, I spoke to my brother who is in the middle of this area right now, and the rain hasn't started yet. The rain hasn't started falling yet. They spoke to a family member who says, it's not even drizzling. And here we are online already of people taking advantage, because you got to understand something. When you put something out there like that, those people who are from Jamaica or have family in Jamaica who have no access are in panic They're seeing destruction, maybe even with their family needs. They're crying out in pain, and this is all a hoax, a joke, something that someone's using, a tool that can be used for good to dismay of others, to hurt others. There was one video I saw where the wind was blowing, the trees were blowing, everything, and I realized it was AI because there was a traffic cone sitting there that wasn't moving. This is what we doing to each other as human beings. So I'm going back to what I read to you. It said, in order to become stronger, you have to be willing to push yourself beyond your limits. In the world I've just described to you, in order for us to become stronger, we're going to have to push ourselves beyond our limits. We're going to have to find ways to survive in a society that is designing itself and going full speed ahead in a trajectory that celebrates as more of us get to a position where we cannot survive. And part of being able to survive is going to be what I've preached all over and over again. Two things. Knowing who you are and whose you are, and then extending what our Creator has taught us, and it's to help our brothers and sisters to live together, to create systems that cannot be infiltrated by people who seek to do us harm. This is not a time to listen to this episode and move along. This is not a time to decide that you don't have faith in God anymore. Because in the middle of all that's going on, if you pay attention, you will see the presence of God. Those of us who don't listen and look for it don't see it. And many times in our lives when we avoided something that was catastrophic, we chalk it up to good luck and not the work of our Almighty. But you remember who you are and whose you are. Because in the weeks to come, as this world is barreling towards a place that's going to make life harder for many of us, not only will we need each other, but I will be here as this podcast to join you in uniting and finding ways to stand up and to live and to help our brothers and sisters survive. 247 Real Talk is about real talk, real solutions, real conversations, heartfelt conversations about helping each other. Stop listening to me and then going on your business. I ask you to like and share and subscribe for a reason. This is not a monetized channel. I'm not making money off of this. What I'm doing is earning my right to occupy a space that my good Lord, my Creator, gave me on this earth. I feel like I have a lot of work left to do and a lot to do to fulfill His purpose in my life. Join me. Don't be an onlooker. It's time for change. In order to become stronger, you have to be willing to push yourself beyond your limits. Creative God, bless my path today. Give me courage to move when you call me to. Remove the limitations that inhibit and diminish my capacity to fully achieve your vision for my life. Breathe courage into my spirit. Replace any hesitation with confidence in the gifts and abilities that you have endowed me with. Galvanize my abilities. Enlarge my faith. Consolidate my confidence in your promises, presence, and power. Empower me to move in divine timing, neither rushing nor retreating. In your life-giving name, I pray. Until the next time, please take care of yourselves and each other. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks again to you all from 247 Real Talk Podcast.